and welcome to the Never Ending Backlog podcast, your place for short reviews from a gamer with the goal of reducing his backlog. From adventures to sandboxes, join our host as we walk through a collection of unplayed treasures. Now, let's take a look at the featured game of this episode of the Never Ending Backlog.
Hello everybody, welcome to the next episode of Never Ending Backlog podcast. I'm your host Zach, and today we will be reviewing Race 07. So what is it? Race 07 is a racing driving simulator developed by SimBin, which filed bankruptcy in 2014 and reformed to create Sector 3. However, there is also a SimBin UK that was formed in 2016. Both websites are nearly identical. Even their meta tags say the same tagline, "We are racing." Not 100% clear if it's the same company or two separate entities. Needless to say, they have made quite a few racing simulators such as GTR, multiple race games, and Race Room, the free-to-play racing simulation game, most of them holding fairly high review scores. Personally, I actually logged a lot of countless hours into Need for Speed Carbon and Most Wanted around this time frame, as well as other games along that nature. I think I enjoyed the customization aspect of the cars. I preferred sprint racing, so point A to point B instead of laps. Laps got repetitive, not really for me, and I enjoyed the drag racing aspects and stuff like that. And most of those games allowed me to have the underbody neon lighting, which I kind of always wanted when I was younger. Which actually leads me to my first fun little tidbit. I actually had an LED underbody lighting kit that I purchased for an automobile catalog called J.C. Whitney. And I had purchased it for my Ford Taurus. It was a 1994 Ford Taurus. Nothing fancy. It's quite old, beat up, but, I was young, so I was proud of it. But when I received the kit, I realized one thing. I'm not a mechanic, nor did I really know my way around a toolkit at that time. The thought of running wires, drilling holes in my car, and other things were kind of a lot to take on. So, not quite sure what I expected from there, but, I was a dumb high schooler at that time. But it ended up sitting in the garage, never getting installed. Bummer. I'm not sure really what happened with that set, but so there you go. Always been a big fan of underbody lighting kits. Need for Speed series definitely hit me on that one. So anyway, back to the review. I'd purchased Race 07 many years ago as a close friend of mine was big into race cars and racing simulators. He had raced, and still does, actual cars. In fact, him and I have gone go-karting a couple times and got me into go-karting, so pretty cool stuff. And myself, as a computer nerd, wanted to convert him to a racing simulator. So when I purchased this set, about 7+ years ago, I had also purchased a forced feedback Logitech steering wheel for my very first triple monitor setup that I mounted on each monitor on a 2x4 that was built on a budget. So think of an old wooden desk, and basically I drilled a bunch of 2x4s on the back of it, and I screwed a long 2x4 and basically mounted all of them in the Visa brackets because I could not afford anything in college at that time. And so anyway, so I had the setup, had the game, had the steering wheel, everything was good to go. So I started thinking just recently when I started playing this is, what really prevented me from getting into this game? I've had it for such a long time, and I have under an hour of game time. So I was trying to think, well, why didn't I play this? I had all the equipment. I had 3 triple monitor setups and everything else. So then I had thought back to other games I was playing around 7 to 8 years ago on the same rig. And sure enough, after browsing through my games, there it was. Dirt Showdown was last played around that same time frame. I had chosen graphics and simplicity over realism. Race 07 was forced to be added to a backlog, unfortunately. I've noticed that this is traditionally how I lean when it comes to games, the simplicity part. I guess I'm not looking for the realism from my escape from reality. So anyways, Race 07 was digitally shelved. The Logitech steering wheel was sold on Craigslist, and my gaming days were placed on pause for a bit. College, money, life, etc. But anyways, we're back, obviously, and we dusted off the Race 07 from Steam shelves and giving it the appreciation it deserves. So first and foremost, upon starting up the game, I was presented with a nice old-fashioned Windows application window, allowing me to choose my preferred video card, resolutions, etc. And the benefit of pretty much every racing simulator on the market as they are meant for tricked out computers, and therefore 5760 by 1080 was natively supported for a game that's 13 years old at the time of recording. Well done, SimBin. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Upon loading the game, there were options to practice, time trials, championships, custom racing, etc. I primarily did practice rounds this time around, as I had assumed the controls would have been complicated. Simulators are usually, realistic and challenging games. Pleasantly enough, though, forward on the keyboard made it go forward, reverse made it go back, and left and right, and so on and so forth. I couldn't figure out how to change the primary view of the car, but I could look around the car, and it was relatively sim-worthy. You can see around the actual cab, and you can see all the different switches, and the steering wheel looks nice, the windows were nice. So overall, the controls were a pleasant surprise. There were a lot of options, though. I'll say that right now. As the F1 keys, or the function keys, all the way from 1 through 12, all played a random role, and most of the keyboard was used in one way or another. Heck, my new car that I drive every day doesn't have as many buttons as this game requires. Crazy. Game ran smooth. The game detected my settings were at low, but realized my frames per second were maxed out, which it runs over in the top left-hand screen, so that's nice. And it actually, when I pushed escape to go into the options from the game, it informed me to go into the settings, increase my graphics, because it realized that my frames per seconds would allow that to happen. So I think that's just a terrific experience. Like, a game that saw my performance, saw that I could do better, and it recommended that I optimize it. So I think all games should follow that rule from now on. I think that's awesome. I mean, it really is. Like, it kind of gives it that console play that you're used to. You put a game in a console and it's just expected to run because they're all the same resolution. They're all running on the same hardware. And it just did a really cool job. So I think it was pretty cool. Whenever I play an older game, 10 plus years, I try to always check to see if the online servers are active. And are there people still playing? How's the community? Are there hackers like Call of Duty, helpful groups, etc.? So therefore, I was interested in the multiplayer was still active, and it didn't seem like it was. It kept saying no response from the server, so perhaps the component is no longer active. Then again, there seems to be a large community based around racing simulators, so I would not be surprised if private servers exist. Plus, it does have LAN support, which is pretty nice. So this game makes me want to throw a quarter out the window and start humming as I whip over the top of quarters going at max speed. And out of all my listeners, that little statement I just made there, I probably only got one person who gets that reference. And for everyone else out there that's not aware, I was referencing a specific part in the movie Driven with Sylvester Stallone. Sure, it wasn't the best movie, but I loved it. It's a cheesy racing flick, likely because I had a major crush on Estella Warren at that time, and I wanted to be Kip Pardue. He also plays as Sunshine from Remember the Titans, if you've ever seen that movie. But Driven, I think, is a funny movie. It's, it's what you'd expect from a racing movie with Sylvester Stallone, but I liked it, so yeah, something there. So would I recommend this game? So this was a hard one for me. The game was well made, especially for 2007. It ran smooth. I didn't experience any issues. However, it is 13 years old, and there are far better racing simulators available now, graphically and experience-wise. So right now, no, I really can't recommend this game. It comes down to this. If during a Steam sale, like one of the massive ones, Project Cars, which I enjoyed, and Race 07 were the same price for some reason, and a person read both of my reviews, and see I recommended both and chose Race 07 over Project Cars, I would feel that I misguided that person. Yes, I understand that the situation would likely never happen. First, that person should be able to understand that one game is far newer and therefore likely has better assets, graphics, controls, etc. You could argue that a time when Project Cars and Race 07 were the same price would never happen. Then again, Race 07 by itself on Steam currently is $3.99, and Project Cars' best price during a Steam sale is $4.99, so it could theoretically get there sooner than we think. It's only $1 difference between those two prices anyway. So therefore, I can't recommend this game as of 2020. I will put that in my Steam review as well. For 2020, I cannot recommend it. However, if it was 2007, 2012, I would likely recommend the game. I think it's a well-done game. It's a nice simulator. If you're looking to get into simulator racing, $3.99 is a good way to start. If you have a triple monitor setup that you just want to test it out with a controller, or maybe you have like the cool the simulators that you actually move around the seats, yeah, try it out. It might actually work out really well for you there. But then again, if it was around 2007, I was playing the original Need for Speed Most Wanted, not the remake, the original, which was amazing, which I would have chosen over Race 07 any day. But then again, it comes back to simplicity first. So our historical low for this game has been 74 cents. Current best price is $2.99 according to Is There Any Deal. There is a SimBin Mega Bundle that has an MSRP of $39.99 that you can purchase directly from Steam, which includes 11 items, which is highly recommended. Apparently the GTR games are phenomenal. The reviews for all of these are really well done. Even the reviews for Race 07 are still high. There's recent reviews on there where people said they love it. They did say some of the community gets a little, they're not as welcoming, but I've jumped into karting, go-karting stuff. I've jumped into other simulators, stuff like that. I found that to be the opposite, where they do reach out. They are an older school group. They like forums, they like chats, they like stuff like those type of ways to communicate. They're very much into forums. I'm just going to say right now, there are huge forum groups. All of these ones are. And that's cool. There's a cool community there. Just follow the rules, listen to them. The arcade community that I'm a part of is in the same boat. They're very old school. They follow forums. They have these rules and guidelines, share pictures like this quality. Don't do this. Don't do this. It goes in this channel. There's a lot of rules, but if you follow them, you'll get some really good feedback. You'll meet a really cool group of people, and I have no doubt Race 07 likely has that audience out there still. So there you go. That's my review of Race 07, available on Steam for $3.99 currently. You can find it elsewhere for cheaper, $1 cheaper, according to isthereanydeal.com, which is where I usually do most of my price hunting. And so there you go. Welcome back to the Never Ending Backlog podcast, and I'll talk to you soon.